There is a moment from the 2022 World Cup final. 124th minute. Mbappé has already scored 3 goals. His legs are burning. His body has nothing left. 88,000 people are screaming at him from every direction. But instead of holding the ball, Mbappé drives forward and tries to score a 4th. It is not tactics. It is not instructions from the bench. It is all about ego. And in that moment, Mbappé finally entered the state where elite athletes spend their entire careers chasing and most never find, and that is flow. The place where the body stops listening to pain, the mind stops calculating risk, and the only thing that exists is the next goal.
But here is the thing. We have seen this version of Mbappé before. We see it every 4 years. It is almost like the World Cup flicks a switch in his brain. And the player who still can win the Champions League, who has never won the Ballon d'Or, who has spent 2 years at Real Madrid without lifting a single major trophy. So what is it about this World Cup? Stay with me, because I'm going to show you every single moment that built the greatest World Cup scoring record the sport has ever seen. Let me give you 2 versions of Kylian Mbappé. Version 1. The club player. Mbappé signed for Real Madrid in 2024, the most expensive free transfer in football history. The plan was dead simple. Pair him with Vinicius, plug him into the Champions League machine, and run Europe for the next 10 years. 2 years later, Real Madrid haven't won a thing. 3 managers came and went. None of them could figure out how to make the Mbappé and Vinicius partnership work. They want the same positions. The system just doesn't fit. Ballon d'Or, never won one. Dembélé actually won it last year. He missed penalties against Liverpool and Athletic Bilbao. Admitted publicly, he'd hit rock bottom. Deschamps dropped him from the France squad over what the coach called mental issues. ESPN reported club sources questioning whether the whole signing was even the right call. That's version 1. Class player, but can't make it click at the very top level of club football. But here's version 2. The World Cup player. How can these be the same person? How can the player who's been in crisis at club level be the same player who's just become the greatest World Cup scorer in history? Well, the answer is in history. And when you look back at every World Cup he's played in, you start to notice something. Something that doesn't make sense. Something that suggests this tournament brings out a version of Mbappé that simply does not exist anywhere else on this planet. Let's go back to where it all started. Russia, 2018. Kylian Mbappé is 19 years old. The hype is already massive. Monaco sold him to PSG for 180 million euros. Everyone knew the name. And finally, the group stage started. France versus Peru. The game is tight. Peru are defending properly. But Mbappé scored a goal. Not a worldie. Not even pretty if I'm being honest. But at that moment, he became the youngest French goalscorer in World Cup history. That was just the warm-up. Round of 16. France versus Argentina. Lionel Messi on the other side, 30 years old, the greatest player of his generation, fighting for his first World Cup. But instead of the legend being the star of the show, here's what happened. Mbappé made an insane run nobody could stop, caused a penalty, then absolutely tore Argentina apart with 2 goals in 4 minutes. The first, a brilliant finish after an electric dribble to the left. The second, a lightning counter that started in his own half and ended with the ball in the back of the net. Argentina couldn't catch him. Messi couldn't inspire a comeback. France won 4-3, and Mbappé was the reason. But here's the thing that made the whole world stop and take notice. The last teenager to score 2 goals in a World Cup knockout match was Pelé. In 1958, 60 years earlier, in the final against Croatia, Mbappé picked up the ball outside the box. 3 defenders right in front of him. He doesn't care. He scored his 4th goal. France won 4-2, world champions. And Mbappé becomes only the 2nd teenager in history to score in a World Cup final. World champion at 19. Best young player of the tournament. And everyone said the same thing. This is just the beginning. By 2022, he'll have the Champions League, the Ballon d'Or, another World Cup. The trophies will stack up. The kid is going to properly run football for the next decade. But here's the thing. That's not what happened at all. In 2022, Mbappé arrived in Qatar without any single major trophy. The 2022 World Cup final might be the greatest individual performance in the history of this tournament. And it came from a player who was absolutely nowhere for 79 minutes. Argentina dominated the first half, taking a 2-0 lead through Messi and Di Maria, while a struggling France failed to register a single shot. And then, something happened. In the 79th minute, Mbappé converted a penalty against Emiliano Martinez. 97 seconds later, Marcus Thuram flicks a pass across the box. Mbappé doesn't control it. Don't take a touch. He just swings his right foot and volleys it into the far corner. 2 goals from absolutely nowhere. In under 2 minutes. But he wasn't done. Extra time. Argentina, go ahead again. Messi scores 3-2. Surely now it's over. Surely France has nothing left. Right? Wrong. In the 118th minute, Mbappé scored a penalty, completing the first World Cup final hat-trick since 1966. And then came the moment I showed you at the start. 124th minute. Ball at his feet. 3 Argentine defenders in front of him. And instead of holding the ball, he tries to score a 4th. That's not normal. France lost on penalties. 8 goals in the tournament. Golden Boot winner. 4 goals across 2 World Cup finals. More than anyone in history. And it still wasn't enough. Before 2026 started, the headlines were the same ones that had followed him for 2 years. Real Madrid in crisis. No trophies. The Vinicius partnership is still a mess. The signing that was supposed to define an era had become the signing that unbalanced a dynasty. And then, the World Cup started. And Mbappé remembered what tournament he was playing in. In the opening match against Senegal, Mbappé's first-time finish put France ahead, 1-0. This goal was his 58th for the national team, moving him past Giroud, Henry, and Platini to become France's all-time top scorer. Against Iraq, in the group stage, brace. His 16th career World Cup goal equaled Miroslav Klose's all-time record, a record that had stood since 2014, gone before the group stage was even done. Clinical. Round of 32 against Sweden, brace. 18 World Cup goals. Round of 16 against Paraguay, penalty, cool as you like, 19 goals. Quarterfinal against Morocco, missed a first-half penalty, then pulled out a curler from 25 yards into the top corner in the 60th minute, because of course he did. 20 World Cup goals. The most knockout stage goals in World Cup history, 12. More than Pelé, more than Ronaldo, even more than Messi. And then came July 18th, Miami Stadium, third-place match, France versus England. Trailing 4-0 at halftime against England, Mbappé scored in the 48th minute to reach 21 World Cup goals, equaling Messi's all-time record in just 3 tournaments. 18 minutes later, he struck again to set the new record at 22 goals. Now, let that comparison properly land. Lionel Messi, the greatest footballer who ever lived. 8 Ballon d'Ors, World Cup winner, 6 World Cups, 31 appearances, 39 years old, 21 goals. Kylian Mbappé, 3 World Cups, 22 appearances, 27 years old, 22 goals, 1 goal per game, the all-time record. Mbappé also broke the record for most non-penalty World Cup goals with 19. Messi has 17. He's also the only player in history to score at least 8 goals in back-to-back World Cups, to overtake the greatest footballer who ever lived. At the one thing that defined Messi's legacy more than anything else, in 3 tournaments, a fraction of the appearances, at 27 years old, I'm sorry, that's not just a record, that's something the sport has genuinely never seen before. It reminds you of Cristiano Ronaldo in the Champions League. The all-time record by a distance, a completely different animal when the stakes were highest. Mbappé is the same. But his tournament is the World Cup. Some players rise for the biggest moments. Some players bottle it completely. Mbappé rises every single time. 2018 as a teenager against Messi's Argentina. 2022, from 2-0, down in the 79th minute of a World Cup final. 2026, breaking the all-time record, while his team was getting battered in a third-place match in Miami. And here's what's truly terrifying for every other nation in world football. He's only 27. If he stays fit, he'll play in 2030, potentially 2034. The record he just set might not even be close to the ceiling. It might literally just be the floor. At Real Madrid, the headlines still call him a problem they haven't solved. But when the World Cup comes around, none of that matters. He becomes the scariest version of any player on earth, the greatest World Cup scorer in the history of football, and we've genuinely loved every single bit of it. So here's what I want to know. Do you think anyone in our lifetime comes close to this record? Or has Mbappé just written his name into football history in a way that never gets touched? Drop your answer in the comments, because right now, based on 22 goals in 22 matches across 3 tournaments, the honest answer feels pretty nailed on.